it'd be cool if I could arrange some of these into albums that I could release. I thought it was about time that I had something for people to check out. So I made 5 of those albums in 2021. I played a lot of gigs in 21, 22, 23. 2023, I've played the most gigs, 200 gigs that year,
Oh, wow.
which is quite a bit. Every time I set up my electric vibraphone or electric marimba, I feel like I'm relearning it or having to like control this like wild horse.
He's a man of many mallets with almost 250,000 Instagram followers, and you may know him from his song, An Angel Will Be With You Shortly. Jake Chapman, thanks so much for coming on. I'm excited to hear more about your career, your music, everything like that.
Thanks for having me, Heroek. That was a great
Yeah,
intro. I loved it.
yeah. Nice, quick, to the point. I see all your different mallet instruments and everything behind you in your studio there. So I'm excited to talk to you, get right into it. And so first thing is just with, I mean, whether it's mallet instruments specifically or whatever it is, what got you into music in the first place or really made it something that you wanted to focus on?
Hmm. Yeah, great question. Well, I come from a musical family, so from the time I was, from as long as I can remember, music was in the
Yeah.
house. My mom is a singer and a vocal coach, and so I grew up with her teaching voice lessons. My dad is a pianist and songwriter, among many things. And I would also hear him at the piano and them rehearsing for cabaret gigs of theirs. And I started tinkering on piano and then started taking formal piano lessons at age 6. Um, those were like classical lessons. And
Yeah.
I did that for about 6 years. And then in middle school, a few things happened. One, I actually started teaching myself guitar, and I also started playing percussion in like the concert band and also the percussion ensemble where I had exposure to mallet percussion instruments. And then at the end of 6th grade, I auditioned for jazz band on piano, but the director of the jazz band asked if I wanted to try vibraphone instead. And I said, sure. And so that's what got me started on vibraphone, and yeah, just kind of took a liking to it and kept going and kept up piano as well. And so yeah, I mean, I guess I always sort of thought that like a career in music was a likely thing for me,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's sort of just been like a continually um uh, a process of like renewing my interest and commitment to music, I would
Yeah.
say, because I've gone through like several phases over the course of my life in terms of like what kind of music I've been interested in and interested in playing and the kinds of things I like doing. And so, yeah, I just like something that I have always been drawn to, and it's always been a big part of who I am and what I've been around. And it just seemed natural, I guess, that I would fall into this sort of path. But honestly, like, it hasn't been something that's been predictable, or like I haven't really known exactly where I'm going. And like, so I'm constantly being surprised, every so often, every year or so, like thinking about where I am and taking stock of the kinds of things I'm up to. And at the moment, I really feel very free to go in many directions. I kind of just have to see what happens and kind of zone in on something that I want to pursue, um, which is a very freeing feeling. It could also be a little daunting sometimes. It's like, man,
Yeah,
like
definitely.
like there's nothing
What
laid
do I
out.
do?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I would say that's like a story in a nutshell. I guess a couple of other things I'll say is like I have been, it has been a big part of my studies from like middle school on, playing in school, also taking private lessons. In high school, I did this extracurricular jazz combo program at the Colburn School downtown LA. And then I went to Columbia in New York, where I studied music academically as well as jazz vibraphone at Juilliard. And then after that, I stayed in New York where I pursued some musical theater writing and then just was on the scene in New York, the jazz scene in New York for a couple of years. Um, so yeah, that's like a brief crash course of my life so far.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
The like brief history of Jake Chapman.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's awesome. It's definitely the early stages that pretty closely mirror my experience with music. I think I'm not sure the age, but probably around 5 or 6 started piano lessons, but not, and then 13 switched over to drums and percussion in school bands and things like that. And now I'm big into like music production, so trying to learn more about that and develop that skill. But I listened to your music before this because I wanted to like find out beyond just like man of many mallets, all the social content you do, what the kind of music that you like release is, and it's very mallet focused and very different from anything else I've heard. What made
Mm.
you want to release mallet music, or like give you a sense that there was a avenue for that?
Yeah. I would say, first of all, that my career so far in general has not been focused on releasing music.
Yeah.
Um, I hadn't released anything until 2021. So like it was COVID and there wasn't much to really do. And what I was up to in 2020 um, was a lot of using this app called Voicey, which was an app where producers would upload beats and people would make little songs or rap over them, and I would just play vibes over these beats. And then it was all in this TikTok esque app where you could share the videos and people could see them and comment, whatever. And so I did like over 2,000 of these little videos.
Oh wow.
And I was like, you know what? It'd be cool if I could arrange some of these into, um, albums that I could release, because I thought it was about time that I had something up for people to check out. And so I made 5 of those albums in 2021. Um, and that was cool because like it showcased me playing vibes and other mallet instruments over hip hop or R&B or dance or electronic beats, and so it really was a cool example of like my what I do with styles and sounds that you don't normally hear it in, and so I enjoyed that. But most of my career up to this point has been focused on live performance, and not so much in the studio recording my music, but I've done a lot of sessions for other people as well. But that started to change about a year ago when I really started using my studio to really focus on recording, and not only recording but recording music that was really just using mallet instruments as the core sound.
Yeah.
So like kind of trying to achieve uh, a fusion of styles that like took my jazz background and love of just jazz harmony and everything about jazz, but infusing that into R&B and hip hop and ambient and other styles,
Yeah.
popular music styles or beats and stuff like that. So once I started doing that, I definitely started um, wanting to increase the amount of focus I put on myself as an artist, as well as releasing music. And so, the tune that you mentioned, "An Angel Will Be With You Shortly," that I released that about a year ago, and I have released a bunch of remixes that I sent to like some producers, a lot of
Yeah.
friends of mine, and that's been great. But I have planned to release more other music, and definitely is something I want to carry into this year. Is like continuing the focus on releasing original music. So, yeah, I would still say I'm very much like at the beginning of my releasing music stage.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and yeah, it's just something that like I've always wanted to do, but like I'm the type of person that like unless I really want to do something, I probably won't get it done. but once I really want to do it, like it'll get done.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so
You're
yeah,
you're
yeah.
you're in it. You're
Yeah,
grinding
yeah,
and
and
everything.
I'm very, I'm lucky, or very grateful that that one song, "An Angel Will Be With You Shortly," has gotten the attention that it's gotten. So
Yeah,
that
definitely.
it's really cool to see that. I can just make a piece like that, which the original snippet of it, like I didn't even think too much about it. Like I made it and made the video, and I thought it was good, but like to have it go very viral on Instagram was like quite a shock. And then I finished up the track, and I was, very happy that it still did well on streaming services.
Yeah.
It's definitely been great, but obviously, I want to just keep going and make new stuff, and hopefully people like it. But honestly, like as long as I like where I'm headed, that's all that really matters in the end, I think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think when I approach music like that, where I'm just like excited about it just because I like it, I think that's when people respond to it like the
Yeah.
most, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with something like all these remixes you mentioned of like, yeah, yeah, it could be seen as like supporting the song itself and whatnot, but it's, I mean, from what you said, like producers that you already know, you're friends with, and so it's like just an added layer in that
Mm-hmm.
sense of like just bringing people you already have connections with closer. Hey heroes, sorry to interrupt that podcast episode, which I hope you are enjoying, but I wanted to tell you about my clothing line, Quest Clothing. Ever since I started really pursuing YouTube and music and all these creative things that I do, I've dreamed about starting this clothing line specifically. I had the name, I had the idea like for years before I started it, and now it's finally here. You can wear clothes like this. I have sweatshirts available, t-shirts, even clothing for like my music with cover arts and lyrics and things like that. It's all super, super cool. And right now is the best way for you guys to support me across everything I do. So be sure to check out the Quest Clothing web store with the link in the description and follow at Shop Quest Clothing on Instagram for updates about collections, discounts, things like that. Anyways, I don't want this self-sponsorship to take too long, so let's get back to the episode. In terms of all the remixes, and there's no pressure to have an answer, but do you have one of those? Because the song seemed very remixable when I, I listened to it, and like hearing
Absolutely.
some of these remixes, like there's so many different styles that these producers
Yeah.
brought on. Is there one of these remixes that you have that's like your favorite to listen to or your favorite style that was done?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you're right that I do think it's very remixable because it's so open ended.
Yeah.
And I knew that like uh, you know, I think I had, I don't know how many, like 14 remixes or something like that. Um, and I wasn't surprised that they all were different because there's just so
Hmm.
many ways to chop or like incorporate the remixes into like different styles, which is super cool to see that. I think that's really awesome. But yeah, I like all of them in different ways, but this let's see, the standouts for me are definitely Jonathan Stein's remix. Definitely one of my favorites. Um, I think Ricky Burgers is nice as well. I made that the first track of the volume two. Um, and uh, let's see, are there any other standouts? Oh, I really like Pia's as well, which is less of a remix and more just her adding a harp, but I think it adds a
Hmm.
really, really nice texture to that track. But yeah, it was really cool process to do that and really show that you know the germ, like my track being the start of that project, led to so many different awesome things.
Yeah.
Some that are like obviously the track, and then some that you wouldn't know, right? Like it's
Yeah,
just
definitely.
sampled more minimally, right? So I think it's really cool, and I'm glad that I did that project for sure. By the end of it, I was definitely ready to move on because I'm like, okay, this is like a lot of attention on this one track, and like I don't want to just be known for this one single. And but I'm glad that at least I squeezed everything I could out of it.
Yeah.
Of course, I definitely need to mention this isn't a remix, but Seiji Oda's track
That
a
was the next
gentle
thing I was gonna get
gentle gig
into.
for sure. So that was really cool development. Funny story about that is like, so when I originally posted my video in early January last year, 2024, a lot of people started adding, certain things, mostly raps or whatever over my video, and his was one of them. And he he and I met not too long after that at a jam session in downtown LA. I actually didn't even know that he lived in LA at that point, but
Awesome.
like literally like a couple days after like I saw that and I eventually reposted it. I'm not sure if I'd reposted it before or after that. Like we come across each other in like the hallway of this building, this apartment building, and he recognized me and I recognized him. I'm like, what the hell? like what are the odds? And so not long after that, he asked me if he could release his track. And so I said sure. And so that's actually the first instance of me having a producer credit. So it's super awesome to like, have my track, the instrumental, and then it be used as the beat for this actually pretty successful, like somewhat underground hip hop track. And
Yeah.
that's been super cool. Like, I've, performed with him a little bit. We were on the Radar
Yeah.
Instagram page, and it's just been super cool to like experience like a track that I helped contributed to be popular. And so like I'm used to like, being the performer, but like to be like sort of more behind the scenes is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So like I'm definitely grateful for that experience and hope more of that will come in the future as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And so it seems with like the voicey thing you mentioned earlier and all these different remixes or like adding raps to your song, like even as a traditionally quote unquote classically trained like instrumentalist or musician, you're using social media and the internet to kind of find other avenues or ventures for your music. If
Mm.
there's other like true musicians who like master their instrument wanting to break into other sides of music, what tips or advice would you give to them?
Oh yeah, great question. I mean, like for me, I've pretty much used my instincts and my gut feeling as my guide. So, um, you know, I just sort of naturally, I think, fall into places I want to be because if there's something that I'm interested in enough, like maybe it's like a certain scene or a certain venue or a certain jam session or a certain style of music, I will be attracted to the places I need to be or the things I need to practice or the things I want to share. Um, and so those sort of develop. Now, on by the same token, like if there's something that I'm not feeling anymore, then I think it won't be long before I start to slow down my involvement with those things, right? So I think like the biggest thing is just to recognize what gets you excited, and what you really enjoy working on, and sometimes those things aren't the things that are, getting you paid or getting you called for things or whatever. But like if you're passionate about something, like don't ignore that, right? Because
Yeah.
you just never know where that's going to take you. And I think like being, putting your, heart and soul into something and your mind, uh, like 100% will lead to great things. And, you know, uh, I have faith that, that those kinds of things will lead to opportunities to make money. And in general, like I'm not really money focused. I've been fortunate to like
Yeah.
just sort of do my thing and then like over time, like, you know, make money through gigs
It
or
works itself
also
out. Yeah.
yeah, recording sessions are supplemented with like social media income, like YouTube especially, which we can talk about in a bit. But like, yeah, I've been lucky to like sort of it more or less fall into place. Like I'm not like rich or anything, but like I've been able to support myself, which is like a very um uh like lucky but and
It's the
fortunate thing.
dream
And
to support yourself with
yeah,
music.
yeah, and I'm obviously proud that I've gotten to that point. Now one since I've been there, it doesn't stop there for me. It's like, okay, now I want to make sure that like um, you know, kind of like saying what I want to say with music or figuring out what that is actually and like expressing myself and having in sort of more agency and um, like um, like just like sort of a maybe more of a concrete goal sometimes, and just making sure like I'm excited about what I'm doing. That's like the big thing for me is like I just want to feel like at every moment like I have something that I really want to do and something that I feel that I believe in or I'm excited about, and I'm like working with people that excite me and inspire me, and I feel like I'm contributing something. That's important to me. And because like I've essentially made it to a point where I have become a full-time musician. Now it's like, okay, what's the next step really? Like how do I get even further?
Yeah.
How do I make it so like it's not just me being a working musician, which is awesome, but like being excited about what I'm doing and what I'm sharing and being an artist really. And so that's sort of the phase that I find myself in at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Because like coming out of the pandemic, I was back in LA at this point. Well, I kind of moved back to LA just when the pandemic hit, and so post pandemic was a lot about like just getting back to live music. And so I played a lot of gigs in 21, 22, 23, and then yeah, 2023 I played the most gigs, 200 gigs that year,
Oh wow.
which is quite a bit. And then last year, not as many, like 120-ish. And then this year, I anticipate probably even less than that, And so, like, there's this pattern now of me reducing the amount of sideman work I'm doing, but sort of trading that off for spearheading my own thing and
Yeah.
making room for me to create more original music and release more music and hopefully perform my own shows under my own name more. And yeah, hopefully all that happens. And yeah, I would love to do all of it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, let's get back to the question. As I said, just like, make sure that you're, you know, practicing your instrument and, doing the things you need to do to like
And
make sure you're good, but then it's like, how are you going to separate yourself? What's the lane that you're going to carve for yourself? Because there's
what's unique
so
about you?
exactly, you got to know what that is. And you can, take uh, advice from people or like see what people like about what you do or like what they find interesting and sort of see how you can um, make that meet with what you're interested in and what you want to be doing. Because yeah, definitely a big thing these days is assuming you want to be an artist, because like, if you just want to no shame or nothing wrong with like just trying to get an orchestra job or like being a sideman or something like that. Um, and still, obviously it's good to carve out, some sort of like niche for
Secondary
yourself
income. Yeah.
as a sideman, like you do want to be known for something as well. But there are many different ways to pursue a career in music, and I found, as I get older, like I'm most interested in the opportunities that allow me to um, bring my own style, whether that's as a sideman or as a leader, as a composer, an artist. And I want to feel like I'm doing something that like it's only me that can do it. Like I don't want to be replaceable
Yeah.
at whatever I'm doing, so if you're interested in that sort of thing, like yeah, it's really about just like following what makes you you, and social media has definitely been a big part of that for me. I started doing Instagram in 2018, And I just had a lot of fun like making videos, both, you know, like entertaining content, but also music content. And definitely, um, I was already doing a lot on Instagram pre-pandemic, but like starting in the pandemic is when I really turned on the jets, especially with YouTube and TikTok. And I started doing a lot of short form content, and some of those videos like started doing really, really well.
Yeah.
Um, and I was able to start monetizing YouTube in mid 2021, and uh, like for almost a year now, I haven't been getting a lot of numbers on YouTube, but for a solid few years, I was like getting quite a lot of views and like some supplementary income on YouTube, which was really, really awesome. And I definitely like started incorporating the whole viral video thing into my um, sort of list of activities that I did. I would say that it's been like a year and a half now since I really set out to make a video that went viral. And the last one, that was my Barbie video that I did. And that was like the last, yeah, it was really the last time I was like, okay, I think this is going to go viral. I expect it to get 100 million views. And it did. It got like, almost 200 million views on YouTube. Um, but basically since then, I've been like much more interested in just music. Like it's always been music first, but like definitely like let's focus on the music and let all the content come from that. And last year was like a really successful year for that. It started literally my first video of the year with the Angel Will Be With You Shortly. Like, did not expect that to happen so fast. And I think it was just a very, um, like a moment of affirmation of just like, if I just focus on, making music that I think is exciting in some way or different in some way or interesting in some way, even just for me, like people will respond to that. And that happened in a huge way. So I'm
Yeah.
very grateful about that. And I think that was definitely a life-changing moment for sure. It definitely pushed me to want to put a lot of attention into my original sound. Um, and yeah, that's what I would say about that.
Are you a music artist looking to get your music on Spotify, Apple Music, and basically every platform? Then you should check out DistroKid. DistroKid is a music distribution service. It's what I use to get my music out, and I find it really, really helpful. You can set up all the credits for your songs, put in lyrics and even like times lyrics and things like that, and manage all your releases from one account or one dashboard. It is super helpful, and I don't think I would have gotten started with music as early as I did without DistroKid. So if you're interested in any of their plans, which I'll put on the screen here, and yes, that does say $2 a month for music on all platforms that you need things like that. That's $2 a month. I know some of you spend more on coffee each day than $2 a month to get music wherever you want. But anyways, back to the point. If you use my link in the description, you will get 7% off of any of these plans to make it even cheaper. Plus it has so many cool features to help with your music, like pre-save pages, getting it on Instagram and things like that so people can add your music to posts. It is just super, super helpful, and it's what I've used since starting music. Like I said, use the link in the description, check out DistroKid, and get 7% off of any plan you want. Now, back to the episode. Let's get right into the YouTube. I see the gold play button in the background
Yeah,
there.
there it
You
is.
hit
Yeah.
over, I think close to 1.5 million subscribers now
Yeah,
on
like 1.4
YouTube,
or
I'm
something.
sure. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and so like and with that, the TikTok, everything, like you're going full on into it. You're in all these costumes. You're like acting things out and
Hmm.
everything. Is that how are you as into that as you are the music? Because you mentioned like wanting it to be music first. Like how do you do that and make it for short form without like taking away from the music at the forefront?
Yeah, I mean, I think basically, like I said, I started doing short form for YouTube and TikTok specifically, as well as Instagram still in like
Yeah.
late 2020 and early 2021. I pushed myself the hardest to like churn out content back then. And I got burned out pretty fast by that. And since then, I've sort of operated on just like, when I feel like making a video, I'll make it. And if I don't feel like it, then I won't make it.
Then
So like I've tried to like just sort of structure it so that when I feel inspired to do something, I do it. And I don't put too much pressure on myself otherwise. So that's pretty much how I operate. And you know, I enjoy incorporating like more entertaining or comedic content sometimes, but I really always want to make sure that like music is coming first, and those other things are just like um, kind of just coloring it a little bit, and just adding some variety and adding some personality. Because the times where I felt like I've gone too far into content creation mode, I start to feel like, okay, like this isn't what I want to do with my life. I
Mhm.
don't want to be a content creator, even if it's like always based around my mallet instruments. No, I want to be a musician, like, and I want people to know me as a musician and someone who's, good at their instrument and, good at what they do. I don't want to just be an entertainer on social
Yeah.
media. But, if I have a video idea that I want to make happen, and I do enjoy, making things that people respond to, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really just just like, if I'm in the mood to do something, I'll do it. As I was
Yeah.
saying
Which is, I think, is the
before,
best
yeah.
mindset to have. Like, you don't
Yeah,
want to force yourself to do anything. And
exactly. It's yeah, especially these days, like it's,
it's
um
obvious when someone is forcing themselves to do it or being forced to do it. Like
yeah,
you
yeah,
can,
and I just don't like, there were many times like filming videos where I would just get frustrated, you know, when I didn't get a good take or whatever, and I was like, what am I doing this for? So like I don't want to be doing something that's just making me miserable. But like, once in a while when I feel like, for instance, like not too long ago when I put on my Santa costume and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna dance around and make a video to this take of Sleigh Ride we did the other day. Like that was just like, it had been a while since I had put on a costume or something like that, so I was down to do it. But like, I don't want to be known as the guy who like dresses up in costumes with mallets like
yeah,
all the time. But I just like, I really like variety, and I like playing different types of music, and I like making different kinds of content or whatever it is. And I like being unpredictable. I like keeping people guessing, or like trying to figure out where does he fit in? Like I don't like fitting into just one box in general. And I also don't like the idea of like branding myself too hard. And I think if I were to say like, what is my brand? It's just like anything goes ish,
yeah.
like
It,
I'll
it's
wear,
you as
yeah,
a
yeah,
person.
exactly. It's
There
just
is
like,
no, yeah,
exactly. Like I just like to do what I like to do. And that involves mallet instruments, involves piano, different types of music, different types of outfits, playing in different locations, gigs. I was playing at the climbing gym not too long ago, making videos outside, making videos in my studio, and just keeping people on their toes. That's what I enjoy doing. And yeah, pretty much my Instagram is like, at the very least, it's just a log of like a scrapbook of things that I want to look back on, but it's also like really my headquarters for everything I do. And I just want to give people like a taste of like what my journey has been. Like really, that's my greatest resource for like my career to this point from 2018 to now. And like if you go back through my well over 1,000 posts, like you'll get a decent idea of what I've been up to for
yeah,
the
yeah,
past like
absolutely.
almost like 7 years or so, right?
Hey, if you're like me and you're interested in the YouTube or creator space, you should check out The Publish Press. The Publish Press is a completely free newsletter founded by YouTubers Colin and Samir. They host their own podcast talking to some of YouTube's largest creators, They've edited some of the best content I've seen on YouTube, and now they're sharing their knowledge about the YouTube space with you for free. The Publish Press comes out 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, with everything going on with your favorite creators and platforms. And like I said, it's completely free. Just enter your email address to receive the Publish Press whenever it comes out, and that's it. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below, sign up to the Publish Press, and get all the info you need on the industry.
Speaking of your Instagram, because that's how I originally connected with you to get this done. But that username that you have, Chappy Milkshake, where does that nickname or that username come from?
Pretty simple. So Chappy, my last name is Chapman, so that's the Chappy
Yeah.
part. And the milkshake part, someone gave me a nickname, Jake Milkshake. And when it came time to make my Instagram, I just put those two things together,
Put them
Chappy
together.
and Milkshake. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was back in 2012 when I made the account. And didn't really use Instagram until 2018, like I said. And I just went with it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a catchy name, so at this point, I'm not changing it. No.
Yeah, it's catchy, it's funny.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it very much sounds like just like a nickname that a friend or something would give you. So it works.
Yeah, it's super
Um,
catchy, and sometimes people will call me it or call me Chappy or Milkshake. You know, I
yeah,
like it.
yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. And so for the music in general,
Mm.
how do you go about writing a song, I'll say, or like when you're playing different mallet instruments, how do you gauge whether something could be like an idea for a released song?
For a release song, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll talk mostly about the music that I was working on, like at the beginning of last year, mostly, because it definitely slowed down through 2024, like the original music that I was writing. But yeah, it was a couple of them started with like ideas on piano, which then I would go into the studio. But I tried to keep a process of like just stream of consciousness almost. And a lot of the ones I was writing, they started as demos where I'd start with maybe some sort of ostinato or some sort of like starting idea on vibes or marimba or whatever it was, and would just build up from there with a demo, and then I would re-record it a little more polished with the video. And then sometimes I would just do the video at the same time and just like don't even worry about it. So I liked sort of like not trying to like figure everything else like before starting to record. Just like sort of take it one piece at a time and see where it goes and where it develops. And it's a fun process for sure. And obviously very it was definitely like an intense process of like very deliberate and just hard work, because like I'm the one running the session, so I'm running to the computer, then I'm recording, I'm starting the phone, I'm recording a part, and then I'm doing multiple takes, and then I'm mixing, and then I'm um, syncing up all the video and the audio and cutting the video together. So it was like a lot of work, and it just like shows like how determined I was to make this stuff last year. It was definitely early last year was one of the most like inspired times in my life, especially my musical life. And I like look back on it very fondly. And I, you know, definitely want to feel like I'm back at that point, but sometimes I can't like completely control when that happens, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was, you know, I'm as a composer, like I'm used to like sitting at the piano and like really like, you know, tweaking little details and stuff like that. But this was like really one of the first times where I just like was just in my studio and tried to not put pressure on myself, just like have fun and see what would happen, and
Yeah.
just ended up being really excited by this I like process of seeing what styles and sounds and textures I could make using just percussion instruments, especially mallet percussion, you know,
Yeah.
because like, you know, I've been working out of this studio now for 5 years, and a lot of that time was, making, social media content and doing recording sessions for other people and doing a little bit of teaching and practicing, obviously, and having some rehearsals. But as far as like really making original music that was um, composed and arranged and mixed, like this was like kind of the first time I was really doing that. And so
Yeah.
that was very exciting to me. And it was really cool to see the things I could make and be like, yeah, I haven't really heard music quite like this, with
Yeah,
this
exactly.
instrumentation, so that excites me. The idea of like me being able to use what I do and create something that I feel is different or stands out in some way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Awesome. And
yeah, I definitely intend to release more of that stuff soon. In fact, I was thinking about and almost got out like a mixtape with like some of the other stuff that I recorded, but it just didn't happen by the end of the year. But soon, definitely this year, I'm gonna be releasing more stuff for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so back in September, because I wanted to get into you released Stark Transmission and Sea Stars. Was that meant to be like a lead into this mixtape that you were saying, or
No,
is that
so
or are those
that
their own thing?
yeah, that's thanks for asking about that because I was about to actually discuss that. So no, that's a completely different project. The mixtape I was thinking about was like those mallet percussion like
Got it.
short pieces that I was working on last year. But so that EP, that Stark Transmission EP, that comes from a session that was 3 years ago, actually, beginning of 2022. And this session was an awesome multi-day session at this studio just outside of Portland. And I was playing an instrument called the EPK, or now it's called the
Hmm.
electric percussion keyboard. It's essentially an electric marimba. So
Got
synthetic
it.
bars, and I put it through pedals, and got many many hours of material. And you know, I it's a shame that it's taken so long for it to be released because there's a lot of good stuff there, and I anticipate more of that being released soon. But I just wanted to make sure at least something was to
Yeah.
come out like by the end of last year, and so that's what that was. And yeah, that's another thing that I'm excited about is continuing my use of electric mallet percussion instruments,
Yeah.
um, because yeah, there's just a lot of room to explore there, and I really do enjoy performing with those instruments, and kind of every time I like set up my electric vibraphone or electric marimba, I'm just like I feel like I'm relearning it or like having to like you know like like control this like wild horse, because like it's really crazy, and like I still feel like there's so much room to explore and room to really hone in on a sound there, and there's just so much possibility. So that's another thing that I want to make sure that I am focusing on this year, right?
Yeah.
So releasing music, continuing to write music, but also using my electric instruments. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And so with any music that you're trying to write or even future music as like a hypothetical situation, is there any artist or band that you would want to like make a song with, whether that's being a session musician on mallet instruments or even like one of your own songs, like working with someone like what's your dream collaboration?
Oh man. Um, there are definitely lots.
Yeah, and feel free to throw out a bunch of names. It doesn't
For
have to
sh-
just be the one.
for sure. Yeah, so many. Um, well, I honestly just don't know where to start. But it would be awesome to do. Like a lot of people say, like Mark Rebele should do something with Rebier, or Lewis Cole would be sick as well, obviously. Um, and I mean, I still very much consider myself a jazz musician. So like, I just want to, and I definitely do want to like make a jazz record at some point soon. But like, I'm definitely down to just keep recording on jazz records for sure. Other people, who else would I want to? Man, I just when I get questions like this, my mind just goes blank. To be honest,
Yeah, no, no
I'm
problem,
just
no
like
problem.
I just don't know what to say. But yeah,
Well, and
um,
it's correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm
yeah,
sure part of it is because you seem like a very like go with the flow kind of guy. Like you're not like actively chasing like working with any artist, but like bigger artists specifically, or like trying to get like
yeah,
collaborations. You seem very like let the creativity come however it comes.
yeah. That's very true. I am very much in the moment, and like in general, not like trying to hustle opportunities to collaborate, like a healthy dose of that, but like a lot of it is like right time, right place, like magic, timing and stuff like that. And I'm not like making big plans or like 5-year plans or like goals in general, and like these are the people that I want to be working with, and like that would be great. All this stuff is great stuff, and like if I was doing that, that would be awesome. But in general, I'm really just focused on like what I'm doing, what I'm excited about, and kind of let things happen. And like I'm definitely, one of the things I enjoy the most is just like seeing how things shape out, and like being excited by like the way my career develops, because I really just don't know. Like it's
Yeah,
so it is unpredictable, um, very much so. But really, I think the reason I can't think of so many people right now is just because like I'm down to do so much. Like
yeah,
I like I would love to like continue to be a part of hip hop and R&B and like electronic music and dancey music, and obviously jazz, and like pretty much any style, like as long as I feel like I'm contributing something um that is something that like only I can do, maybe, or like something that I feel like I do well. I That makes me excited, you
yeah.
know.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, I'll say this. I think more about the people that I would love to produce my record rather than artists that
Okay.
I would like to work
Yeah.
with.
So
Because
who are some of those people? Because that's an awesome way to think
yeah,
about it,
yeah,
or an
yeah,
awesome
yeah.
question.
Because like I just feel like I need some. I don't need it, but like I would love to just have someone take some of the weight off my shoulders when it comes to production and and obviously mixing and mastering and stuff like that. But like just like make it so like I just have to show up and do my thing, and the thing I do best is play my instruments. And it's just great to collaborate. I really like collaborating, and I like when there's someone else in the room to feed off of and um, to vibe with, right? And so two names that definitely come to mind are Rick Rubin and John Bryan. I think I haven't met them, but I'm a fan of their work and things that they've produced. John Bryan is like a mallet guy as well, so I think that would be awesome. Rick Rubin, he's done amazing things in his career, and his I listened to
I
his book Creative Act, and that was
yeah.
inspiring. And anyway, like I don't know if I'll get the opportunity to work with guys of that level like anytime soon, but like that would be very much a
Yeah, there's always
dream
a chance.
to do,
Yeah, Rick
yeah.
Rubin's this also seems like a very Rick Rubin thing that he would do. Like
I
I
know,
mean he
I
already
feel like
does like
I
everything,
know,
but
I know.
this especially.
I feel like Rick, if you ever hear this, please
Rick
consider it.
Rubin, if you're watching this, reach out
Yeah.
to Jake
Uh,
Chapman. Like you
yeah.
playing vibes in like the Shangri-La studio, it just
Yeah,
fits so
yeah.
perfectly.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely this year, like priority is just to continue to develop my original sound and me as an artist. And, I'm curious to know where that goes because, the stuff I was doing last year was pretty specific and pretty contained. Like, I used the instruments that I had at my disposal and I was making short pieces, like snippets, like not even full tracks in general. Um, and just doing what I could with a little bit, and obviously posting on social media and enjoying what I was making. But there's still so much room to grow, and I do wonder, like, will I incorporate vocals at some point, because I have written songs with vocals before, and you know I could see myself starting to incorporate vocals and performance at some point, but when the time feels right, I'll know it. But also, definitely want to make sure that I'm performing more this year, like, proper shows where I'm presenting something and preparing for it, because I'm used to, playing a ton of gigs where I'm the side man. It's just, showing up and playing some music for a few hours. Maybe it's background music, maybe it's a show. But yeah, really want to make sure that I'm presenting something that I feel is deserving of people's attention and feel like I'm expressing something that I believe in, right? So I just
Yeah.
want to continue that process. And, you know, some musicians, that's their focus from, the beginning of them making music. But for me, it's really been a more slower going process, and not that I've never done my own shows. It's just been much less of my like priority
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
my career to this point. Yeah,
Yeah. Which is totally understandable. And
yeah,
I get like I think it'd be very cool to open up that kind of venue and do like, live shows or live events and things like that. But I think it's kind of so unique or so niche that it would be like I like as cool as it sounds, and that's something I would attend for like a Jake Chapman show. I don't have the context of what that would look like. When I'm thinking of getting concert tickets, I've been to concerts before. I know what that is. Like
right.
a mallet percussion thing. I'm sure there are some out there that people have gone to, but like I just without the previous experiences, I don't know what to
Hmm.
expect.
For sure, yeah, and definitely like over the past year, I've been like trying to think like what does my live show look like, because
Yeah,
um, I've done a few different things, like whether it's solo vibes or whether it's vibes trio with bass and drums, or whether it's here's one of the ideas that I've implemented a couple times, but like big mallet percussion ensemble, because the music that I was writing last year was mallet percussion music. So I was like, okay, why don't we do that live with a mallet percussion ensemble? And so that's cool. Or is it like, you know, getting together like a jazz group or, with bass drums and piano and horn or guitar or whatever. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. And then it's like, what repertoire are we going to play? And like, so these are things that I really need to continue to develop and figure out.
yeah,
Um, and then of course, like I want to do stuff with my electric instruments. And so like, that's a whole another thing. Or like, do I just have a show where I'm playing all of them, but then the question of logistics, like how do I bring a marimba, an electric vibraphone, an electric marimba, and a glockenspiel and boomwhackers to
yeah,
a show? Like, how do I do that? I can't do that by myself. Um, so like, but I just have to like, start where I'm at, do what I can do. And then like over time, it'll grow to where I want it to be,
yeah,
hopefully.
yeah, and you can
Yeah.
keep brainstorming so that when an opportunity presents itself to do a live show, you're like, okay, I have ideas for how this should go, what it looks like, things like that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so I guess to start wrapping things up here, like I mean, you mentioned the mixtape. You want to get more into releasing music.
Mhm.
What's coming up next for Jake Chapman, or what can people expect in this coming year?
Yeah, no, just like you said, like definitely releasing more music, recording more, writing more, um, and performing more gigs under my own name, as well as continuing to play gigs around Los Angeles as well as
Yeah,
some out of town, um, and posting on social media as I can, um, and so like yeah, so like keeping up certain things, but like just try to keep pushing and reaching for like that next phase,
the
whatever
next
that
thing.
is.
Yeah,
Like I'm very much like figuring it out. Like so I am excited to see what happens this year, very much. But just know that I am figuring it out almost as much as anyone else is. So yeah, definitely feels like uh, some sort of pivotal or like inflection point or some sort of transitional phase that I'm going through right now. And I feel like I have these phases like every year or two where I'm like, it feels like a change is coming. And so I think this year I will see some sort of change, or at least the start of something, or building to the next thing. That's what I would say. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing that, hearing whatever music you have releasing. Keeping up to date with the Instagram, YouTube, whatever content you're putting out. And I mean, thank you so much for coming on here and telling me about your career and everything you're working on because it's so unique and awesome.
Thanks so much, Heroek. It's really been a pleasure to talk to you, and thanks for having me.